Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our governance priorities meeting for Tuesday, December the 10th. And so we'd like to start here with our land acknowledgement, just calling the meeting to order here at 9 a.m. In the spirit of respect, reciprocity, and truth, we honor and acknowledge the Mokisis and the traditional Treaty 7 territory and the oral practices of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Leathal, Nakota Nations, Chiniki, Bearspaw, Goodstoney, and Tsuut'ina Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home of the Autapiska Métis government and the Métis Nation with Alberta District 4. Finally, we acknowledge all nations, Indigenous and non, who live, work, and play on this land and who honor and celebrate this territory. This sacred gathering place provides us with an opportunity to engage in and demonstrate leadership on reconciliation, and we are honored to have you join us on Treaty 7 territory. For a moment of reflection this morning, we have a change. Council, right from the get-go, had talked about how we want to provide all councillors with the opportunity to serve as deputy mayor. And so today we will be transitioning the deputy mayor role from Deputy Mayor Narayan to Deputy Mayor Randhawa. So congratulations, Deputy Mayor Randhawa. You are, I do not believe that we need any motion for this because the motion had been that we were doing it on a rotational basis, but just for clarity, we just want to make sure that we were doing it at the meeting, but would provide an opportunity because I saw you grab the mic there, Deputy Mayor Randhawa. Was there anything you wanted to say this morning as you take on the role of Deputy Mayor?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to take this opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, Deputy Mayor, now Councillor again, Narayan. Don't worry, this changing every 3-4 months makes it really easy for me to remember and not change people's titles at all. It's super fine, but that's okay. We continually show that we change Mayor Dean's role during meetings as well. I think that has happened a few times. So with that, we'll move on to our updates and approval of the agenda. Looking first of all to our administration, are there any additions or deletions or changes to the agenda from administration, Mr. Edney?
No, through the chair, no additions from administration.
Great, thank you. Council, is there any additions or deletions or any updates for the agenda? Councillor Schindler?
In the spirit of levity, I would love to add a dance break between sections 5 and 6.
So the problem is with doing things like that, I appreciate you wanting to make a joke here this morning. When we do stuff like that, we end up having to make an actual motion. I'd rather avoid.
I rescind that.
Great, thank you. Are there any additions or agendas that we would like to make to the agenda? Great, thank you. Can I have a councillor make the following motion, please? Deputy Mayor Randhawa.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the Governments and Priority Committee approve the December 10, 2024 Governments and Priority Committee meeting agenda as presented.
Comments, questions? Call for the vote. Great, thank you. We have two public presentations here this morning. Our first one is coming from our historical, sorry, I apologize, I skipped over a section. Section 4, our public input session looking to legislative services. Is there any submissions or anyone in the gallery that has approached you about public input this morning?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. At this time, there is no public input.
Great, thank you. And seeing none from the gallery. Okay, now to public presentations. We have two public presentations this morning. Our first one is from the Historical Foundation presentation, and this is being presented by Miss Jen Peddlesden, who is the president of the Chestermere Historical Foundation. Good morning, Jen. And Jen, also just an all-round solid human being, but that's just personal opinion. That's just personal opinion.
Thank you very much.
They'll turn it on for you. You're good.
It's on. Good.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I see that the PowerPoint is up there. But first, I would just like to say thank you for entertaining our visit to come and make this presentation. Really appreciate that. And also a big thank you to the city for a grant under the community grant program, which we have taken that money now and purchased 200 copies of Chestermere Home for All Seasons, the most recent history book. And they are now for sale. I've put some posters up. So we're selling them at $20 each, which will recover some money, which we hope to use then to further doing more with the history of Chestermere. So I want to say thank you very much for that grant. And the history books are now for sale and make great Christmas presents. So thank you. I want to apologize for two people who said they wanted to come but couldn't. Our vice president and our secretary were not able to come due to appointments today. So I sent around this presentation. I think this is probably the clicker to go with it, or is it not? It is. Okay. Oh, wait, I'm going the wrong way. I can't see the arrows. They're so big. So this is just our logo that was designed by a young woman who lives in Chestermere. She is a graduate from ACAD. And background, I'm just going to go over this quickly because there's quite a bit of verbiage on the slides. But we looked at the strategic plan for the city of Chestermere, and there isn't very much there about history. So it's probably not surprising that we don't have a Heritage Council or a Heritage Authority here in Chestermere. It hasn't really maybe been a priority. But there has been action all along in the history of Chestermere to preserve its history. Writing 3 history books. The third one is the one that you gave us money for the reprint of. And also, we have had many people involved in this. It's just that it hasn't been under the auspices of the municipality. And that's why we're here today, to see if we can change that. So historic resources connect us amongst ourselves. It gives new people who come to the city an idea of what the city was, is, and is going to be. If you don't know a little bit about the history of where you're from, you really don't know where you are. We came in 2010 with a member of the Municipal Heritage Partnership Program to present an option that was available at that time to do a survey of the historical resources in the city. Unfortunately, the council at that time decided not to do that. They did give us some money for some photographs, which we now have down in the library, and they gave us some of the history books for us to sell, but that was it. 2011, we became a society in Alberta, and because of that, we're able to have casino monies, and that has been a great boon to us. In 2018, we came again for another presentation about having a formal heritage authority, but again, the idea was to send a councillor to our meetings, but that didn't seem to work very well. And between 2020 and 2024, we have again opened these discussions. In 2021, we had another meeting with the city, but unfortunately, by the time the action was taken on that, it was the election of the previous council, and then nothing has been done. So we're so happy to be here today. We provided, along with the PowerPoint that each of you would have received, a list of communities in Alberta who do have a variety of different kinds of ways of dealing with the heritage of their city. So you can have a look at those. I'm not going to go through each of these, but you can see Airdrie, Okotoks, Camrose, Strathmore, Brooks, High River, Lacombe, Bighorn. And then in the past few weeks, thanks to Jody Graham, who is the records management person here, has taken an interest in this, and she updated that, and that was also sent, I believe, by her to each of you. So there's no end of ideas of how this could be accomplished. So what to do? Well, establish a municipal heritage authority committee of some sort. I think that we would be very happy to sit with any committee members or council members to discuss, based on what has gone on in the other communities, what would work best for Chestermere. And I think it's not a one-size-fits-all, not a prescriptive idea that we have. We just want to work with you and have a communication channel to set something up that would be permanent. And why? There are a couple of reasons why we can look back and see how not having had this has really been not good. last spring, we decided, since we weren't getting any action on this, the Historical Foundation said, we have casino monies, we can hire someone. So we did. We hired a history student from U of C who lives here in Chestermere, Najibi Osman, and she worked from April to June going through the minutes of the city of Chestermere since the publication of Chestermere, A Home for All Seasons, and documenting the salient things that have happened. So she didn't get through it all, so we hired her again in September, and she has just finished her second term of doing that. So we have created a PDF document that lists everything that's been happening. So we thought that's what the city maybe should have been doing, but we thought we can't just let time continue to go by. And in doing that research, we realized that we have no photographic records of any photographs that were taken by the council under Mayor Matthews, under Mayor Chalmers, under Mayor Colvin. Where are those files? No one seems to know where they are. There must have been. Photographers went out to Waterfest, Winterfest, all the different activities that were being held in the city. And I know photographers were out there taking pictures. We have no record of those. We don't know where they are. Maybe there's someone who knows, but no one has been able to find it. So that's what I'm saying, that during that period of time, an awful lot was lost that should have been organized, recorded, digitized, whatever. So I think those are real concrete examples of what has been missing in terms of recording the history of this town, city. So I think that may be all I have to say, other than to just thank Jody for really embracing this and giving us a hand, especially with Najibi, who has been working in the library. It's been a partnership with the library where we pay her wages, and then the library, Miranda has been supervising her, and that's been, she and Alexandra Priestman as well. So it's been a great partnership. So, oh, hi, Jody. There we are. Putting your name in lights. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, good. So I don't know if you have any questions for me, but...
So first of all, thank you for the presentation. What I will say on the records keeping side of things, this is something that when I first became elected in 2021 was something that I too became aware of, was the records keeping within the city and the improvements that needed to be there. I think that's how Jody actually first came to us, was on a records keeping side of things, and would make light of some of the work that she was doing in terms of records keeping downstairs and things like that. So this has been a continual process. However, you are not wrong in that this has been an area where the city has been exploring and continues to explore the improvements on the records side of things. So it was something I was aware of as council, and something that our council has also, we haven't really taken a deep dive into this, but it is certainly, I would say, a topic that rears its head in different ways at times, as we've asked questions, and we said, and a sentence that has I have said at least 3 or 4 times since becoming mayor is our continual improvement that we're working on as we grow in our records keeping management. That would be in line with what you're saying with regards to this. I have a few comments and questions about this, but first would like to open to council. We'll start down with Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it very much. Through the chair to Ms. Peddlesden. As many of you know here, Chestermere's history is obviously close to my heart because it is largely my own family's history. So I just want to give a personal thank you to the Historical Society for all the work you're doing. It's very important, and it means a lot to me personally. So thank you very much for that. And I do have a quick second question, mostly about how we move forward. And I see you have a lot of, it says what to do right here on the TV right now. But if we wanted to start looking at how to preserve some of our historical sites around Chestermere, what would be the first steps we should take?
Well, when we consulted with Alberta Historic Resources Foundation, they said there's a number of levels on which you can do that. First of all, just take an inventory. And I think probably that's one of the most important things. to just inventory what you have doesn't necessarily mean that any of those things have to be preserved, but if you have an inventory of what you have, at least you have that record. So say, for example, the Calgary Yacht Club building, they have pictures and things like that, but it was never inventoried as an old building. Mm-hmm. And when the historic resources people came through, they showed us how some of the communities had done that. So they would have a document that would show a picture of the item, whatever it is, a building, or, I mean, there may be other things, a bridge, things like that, that become part of that inventory. So then, if perchance the city then wants to preserve those and maybe keep them as historic, like designated historic resources, that would be a second step. Then there would have to be fundraising and things like that. But just making an inventory was an important thing that we thought should be done. And I just noticed as I went down East Chestermere Drive, another one of the old cabins is now just a hole in the ground. So things like that. And I think to Mayor Dean, when he was working at Camp Chestermere, we know that there are 2 buildings there that are back from the 30s that were part of the Navy camp. And those would be things that would be inventoried. So I think to just make this the answer simple, first we need to do an inventory. And at the time, Historic Resources provided $20,000 to do that. As long as the city matched the $20,000, they would bring in people to do that for you, and then you would be provided with a document with the inventory. So I hope, does that sort of answer what?
Yes, it does. That's fantastic. And you know, I realize that maybe our history is not quite as old as other towns, but if we fail to preserve it now, we'll never have it when it is
exactly.
It is a
everything that's happening becomes history a day later.
Absolutely.
Right? So
thank you, Jen.
yeah.
Along with that too, in my previous role, we were able to hire a student. I'd have to look into what there is a program that is done through, it's either U of C or U of A, where you can, they actually pay for the student to come and do a lot of this work that you're talking about. This was a number of years ago, but I think it would be valuable for us to look at that. And they actually do it as part of their practicum work. So it becomes a practicum work for that student, and then it's all funded through the particular university. So I think on that note, I think it would be worth us, should council want to look at all this, and as we start to develop a strategy, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves yet because council hasn't said one way or the other yet. But should we want to proceed with something like that, I think would be good. A step we could take is looking into that because I know that in my previous role when we did this, the database that they created for us was unbelievable, and how they were able to capture the history of everything, and it was unbelievable the work that this summer student did, and it was through a particular program that I would have to go relook up because it's been a few years now. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to staff and Ms. Peddlesden. Firstly, thank you to you and the Foundation for doing such a fantastic job. History is very important, and it needs to be protected. It's part of legacy and our identity. I do have 2 quick questions, one for you and then maybe one for staff. And I'm thinking just, what is being proposed, a historical advisory committee almost sounds to me, that it'll be like a historical advisory communications committee, because I'm trying to think about the role of this proposed committee and then the role of the foundation and how they're going to be complementing each other. Mm-hmm. Yes.
To try and answer that?
Yes,
okay.
please.
So in some of the communities, what they have is they have a formal a committee that is formed by the city or town, and then representatives who are on that committee, some of them would be people from, say, the Historical Foundation. Mm-hmm. Okay. Public members, maybe they would choose other types of members, but that committee might meet 3 or 4 times a year. They would they would look at how they are recording their own history over and above what the Historical Foundation might be doing in terms of projects. And like we were talking about what's been missing through records management, that kind of thing, might be part of that committee's, they might be guiding that for the city. But then they might also meet and decide on some projects that need to be done. They might consult on historic public art, but it would be a committee that would meet it maybe regularly or irregularly during a year to set out some guidelines, but also that historic authority or that heritage authority would be in charge of documenting the city's history. It wouldn't be left to a bunch of gray-haired people who meet once a month and are scrabbling around to find money to do it.
Okay.
Because if we stop being a society, that'll be the end of it. And we don't believe that that's how this should, there should be a continuity that's part of the municipal authority here to carry that on.
Yeah, and you've answered that very well. And just a very quick follow-up, because Al Coty said that the student was looking at salient things. So one of the responsibilities for this proposed committee would be to maybe even identify, what salient things would constitute.
Well, yes, as well as maintaining the records that have not been maintained.
Yeah.
Like the photographic records, the other records. Really, all Najibi had to go on that we could find were the minutes. There was nothing else. The newspaper articles are probably digitized. They're up at the legislature. We might be able to find money for her to go up there and look through those. But we keep thinking what we're doing is what the Heritage Authority should be doing. We've gone back to try and catch up where a great gap has happened.
Okay, that's wonderful.
On our dime, not on the city's dime.
Okay, that's understandable.
And that shouldn't really have happened, right?
No.
Yeah, so
That should never have happened.
Councillor Ryan had a question that's similar to what I was thinking, and that is different parts of your presentation. You mentioned how previous councils had assigned essentially a liaison to come and be a part of the historical foundation. And so for me, I'm just trying to see the difference, and I don't want to throw any other councils under the bus or anything like that. So the difference is, if it's the city committee leading it, you see it as the city taking more of the lead role, and the foundation's more the supportive role of what the committee is doing. Would that be a difference as opposed to the liaison?
Some generation of ideas by the historical society or the historical foundation that could be given to the authority, but the authority should be guiding how history is recorded for the municipality.
Right. So then I guess to our CAO, is the authority a committee of council? Do we know that yet? Or is that, or am I foreshadowing where I'm going with this, in that perhaps a motion that can come forward is for us to be directing administration to look at how we are, if we wanted to pursue this, what that looks like, whether it's the authority, a committee, something like that.
Can I just interrupt? This document that Jody went through shows how each of these other communities have done that. Now, I don't know if, Mr. Edney, you even looked at it or have even sort of talked to any of those people, but I think that there's been, so when you went to the AUMA meeting, did any of you talk to somebody there about what they're doing about Heritage Authority? No, that would be a really good idea, because I think sometimes we keep coming and bringing these documents with links to all these places, and then we have to come and say to you, this is what you should do, but nobody really knows what the other communities are doing. So I think you people need to know what those other communities are doing, so you can choose what you want to do. It isn't up to us to choose. We will be part of it because we're an independent society. We have money to do projects, but we can't be documenting the history of the Chestermere municipality. It needs to be done in some way by the city.
So to answer your question, I've had a couple conversations with some other municipalities on how this is done.
Good.
In fact, the guy who leads it in Calgary is a former student of mine.
What
I was more talking, which is why I directed my question to administration, is the technicality of legislatively how we could look at things. So I am foreshadowing a little bit a motion that I'm going to be proposing for council to proceed with this.
I'm sorry I interrupted because you were trying to ask Mr. Edney something.
It's all good. Should I go to Councillor Wars and ask him? We'll come back to this.
Yeah, sure. I can go through the mayor. No, I haven't looked into anything with this at all, to be
Okay.
honest with you. If council wants to make a motion for us to do that, then we can start that process.
If I was a betting man, I feel like that's coming. Councillor Warzanowski.
Thank you, Mayor Dean. Thank you, Jen, for your presentation. We certainly appreciate it. I have to give a shout out to my wife. She's here in support of the Historical Foundation. She never comes to see me, but we have to give her, some credit.
And we have a few people online, I think, too.
Yes, I'm sure we do. You did mention that Sonia Leduc, and there's probably others online. So hello out there, everybody, into the watching online.
That was well done, Councillor Warzanowski, by the way. Very well done.
Yeah. I do have one question, two questions actually. One of the questions that was brought up, I wanted to comment on Councillor Grant's question in regards to the preservation of our information. We did pass a motion earlier this year in regards to the digitization of all of our documents. Mm-hmm. I wonder, through the chair, to Mr. Etney, if during our digitization, I know it's early stages, if we found any photographs, any documents, historical information, I'm sure there's lots of boring bylaws and policies that need to be digitized. But as part of that effort, I would also support a motion to providing some of that information to the Historical Foundation until there's been a lot of talk about what this committee may look like. And I think the TORs are definitely going to have to be, and we'd probably expect somebody in the Historical Foundation to be a member or potentially the chair of that foundation. We don't know what that looks like yet, but the question to you is, do we know if there's any historical information that we have in our archive? And before you answer that question, through the chair, Mr. Etney, and you, Ms. Peddlesden, it'd be interesting to see if we can dig up some of that at the legislature, if there's more information kind of hiding somewhere. Because all that information is important for us to preserve our history.
Yeah, so through the chair to Councillor Warzanowski, I personally don't know, as I haven't been involved in the project, but Ms. Graham, I'm sure, has some good insight, and I imagine there's, in our trove of documents in the basement, exactly some of the information that you're looking for. She's nodding her head, so I suspect there is, and that is something we could do as we move through that project, provide the information.
Thank you, Mr. Etney, and to Mayor Dean. I don't know. Well, I guess back to you, Mr. Etney, if that's something that you'd want a motion, or you would just do it with the digitization, and that'd be great. I'm sure as we kind of flush out what the future of our history looks like, I'm sure Ms. Peddlesden would love to get any of that info as we digitize it.
You were.
What I'm thinking, Councillor Warzanowski, is we'll see if any other councillors have questions, and I'm going to propose a motion, and I think within that motion we're going to be able to answer that question. Sure. Because, I'm not trying to play coy. We all just know I try to let everybody else talk first before moving forward. But also, if council wishes, I can suggest the motion I'm going to be suggesting, and then we could, if that would be helpful. Or does anybody else have anything before that? Councillor Sambo?
Thank you, Your Worship, and my questions and possibly a question and comment through you. It's interesting, I think, how aligned everybody who's been talking has been on this, that identity and place is so important, and that the Historical Foundation in particular has done a great job. So we actually had a meeting yesterday, and Mayor Dean asked us, what do we love about Chestermere? And I said the people and the super volunteers. And Jen, you're one of the people I think of when I say that's why I do this. So thank you for all your hard work. One of the things that I love about the foundation is how tangible the outcomes are. Mm-hmm. So you do things like butter churning, right? So people can experience that, and the history book and the kids book outside the library, and the memory boxes, and all these things that allow people to actually experience our history. So regardless of whether people have been here for here, or recently come to Chestermere, we can all have that experience. So I think that's really interesting. I'm really curious about Coy Mayor Dean and what he's going to propose, because the question for me is, should the city right now be taking a leadership position, or just a really intentional collaborative position? I see in all of these examples, there's museums, I would be surprised if we're in a position to immediately start a museum. But I think there's some things we can do at a pretty low cost that could start to preserve this history and help with that identity of place. So I just wanted to make those comments and then see where this goes.
Councillor Sambo.
Okay, so Deputy Mayor Randhawa.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to administration to Jan. And there's a comment. First off, thank you so much for the history. Actually, it's not because of Chestermere, for Canada, for other countries, the history is the main thing. Then we can teach our kids' future, who we are, what would this city look like. It is village, town, now it's a city, right? And yes, I'm echo with the Councillor Sambo for the museum. And just this is one more idea I'm just putting, like in the future is building for our rec center. Sometime, some of the building have a wall on with that, and some of the pictures and some of the items in there as you go and you see. I think that is something I can think of at this time, but definitely we will see what is Mayor Dean is bringing up the motion. So we're gonna go from there, and because this is the history, and I don't want to just finish here or with our council, or I just need to go, this one is more forward for the long-term goal. So this is what exactly I'm looking for the history, because history is for years and years. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so, Mr. Edney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to council, just an idea that we did up in Brazeau County. We had actually a display case out in our lobby area where the Historical Society every 3 or 6 months came in and displayed some of the artifacts and history of the area and allowed it to change through with a little bit of write-up. And so anybody who came into City Hall at that point could see this. And it was not a museum, but it was a very cost-effective start to at least having somewhere to collect and display some of these items. So it might be something for consideration if council was interested in that.
Yeah, so thank you. So with that, first of all, it's been said many times, I am super grateful for the work that our Historical Foundation does here. I completely agree with all the comments that have been made up here. Councillor Sambo, to your point about the tangible outcomes that come from this foundation, it's incredible. And so, big picture wise, I would like to propose a motion where we direct administration to draft terms of reference for the creation of a municipal historical advisory committee. And then I believe some things that should be included in that terms of reference are that the committee would end up making suggestions, proposals back to council on ways that the history could be preserved. I also think within that, I also wonder if administration, even in the short term, so we have a city hall space right now that has both wall space and floor space where we could look at the displaying of historical items that I know the Historical Foundation has. And so I'm wondering, even as part of that, so big picture wise, I do support and would like to have a councillor make this motion, and we'll see how democracy plays. But I would like to see that. And then what I would like to see is what I'm suggesting, council, is that we make the motion. And then as part of the motion, council would make suggestions as to things that this committee could be doing. Right, so that way administration is able to have some ideas as to what could also go into the terms of reference. I would also like to provide the opportunity and the latitude for Ms. Peddlesden to make suggestions as to what this committee could be doing, and then that way all of that can go back to council and we can formalize this process. So that's what I was getting at with my technical question earlier, is that this is the step we have to take to make this happen. Right, is that this draft TOR needs to be done, and then it comes back to council at a regular council meeting, and then we approve it. So with that, council, are we able to make this motion, or is there a comment to be made before this motion? Councillor Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I have one last comment through you to Ms. Peddlesden. A lot of our history has been stored at CRCA, and I have noticed recently that a lot of that is disappearing from the walls and the cases there. And I'm wondering if you guys have had a conversation with them, if they've reached out to you or not. But it is very disheartening to me, and I don't know where a lot of those trophies have gone, and I don't know where there was a beautiful mural that was down by the gym for probably 40 years, and I don't think it's there anymore. And I don't know where these things have went, but it is something I'm personally going to go there tonight and have a good walk around and maybe think about what was there and what's missing now. But I really think we need to communicate with them and ask what they're doing with that stuff, because I hope it's not in the dumpster. So.
Yeah, to your point, Councillor Grant, I do think that there's an urgency to this. For example, Ms. Peddlesden pointed out earlier that about a cabin that was there and not, right? Well, we do know that we have lost some other items that were around. And as Jen said during her presentation, once it's gone, right? And I do think that there is an urgency to this work, and would like to see, and I think that this is a committee where it could really dig its teeth into getting some very good work done. And anybody on council who's looking for a committee where it's like you're going to be going and doing stuff, this is the committee to be on. I know all 7 of us are going to want to be on it. I see this coming already, and so we'll have that fight later. Sorry?
Not me. I have a family member that'll be on it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, we're down to 6. So, with that, Councillor, are we good with making the motion, and then we can make suggestions within the motion of what to be included in the TOR? Sorry, Councillor Schindler.
I'll read the motion.
Okay, Councillor Schindler.
Can I motion the motion?
Yes.
I'm going to motion the motion. I move that the Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to draft a terms of reference for a Chestermere Municipal Historical Advisory Committee and bring back to council a council meeting for approval.
Great, thank you. Suggestions on maybe what? So I've made a couple already, right? Is that I would like to see the committee. Hold on. That the committee would be, the way I see this committee working is making recommendations to council. Those recommendations could have budget implications, right? And that's okay. Like, I think that this committee the terms of reference should make it really, really clear that this committee has a wide latitude. I would also like to see included within this committee that it is made up of, in some fashion, members of the Historical Foundation as well, that is right in the terms of reference. So it's not all Historical Foundation, but I do think that it should be made up of a minimum 2 members of council, members of the Historical Foundation, and members of the public. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Worship. Do you have a suggestion? I just think when it comes to the TOR, that the Chestermere Historical Foundation, I think their collaboration will be needed. So I don't know if we can, direct the foundation, but maybe within this somehow direct administration to collaborate with the foundation rather than bringing back the TOR and then asking for their recommendations on it.
So, to your point, Councillor Ryan, could we, within the motion, the Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to draft, in cooperation with the Chestermere Historical Foundation? So after draft, in cooperation with the Chestermere Historical Foundation. Does that speak to that?
That's proper. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Warzanowski.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dean. I agree, by the way, with all of your commentary in regards to the composition of the committee, even so much that you said this before, and I'm curious to hear Councillor Sandbo's thoughts on this in regards to the level of involvement from the city or council that will be part of this committee, because in my experience, little experience with the historians of our town, council, you can see, has not done a very good job of that. And again, not to throw anybody under the bus, so I'd like to see the TORs be written in a way such that it'll survive any council, and potentially have somebody from the Historical Foundation maybe as the chair. What Mayor Dean has often said is that, and Councillor Sandbo said it even this morning and even yesterday in meetings that we've had, is that the work that our volunteers and our committee members do in this town is beyond what what the city can do. And that intentional support from the city could certainly be having council members on that committee, but also in regards to funding and preservation of the data, preservation of the artifacts, whether they're houses, trees, or trophies. I think there's a lot of things that the city can do, because there are things that the city is good at, but the committee needs to be run, I think, by our community, is what I would suggest.
Thank you, Councillor Worzynowski. I don't disagree with that at all. Legislatively, though, fortunately, unfortunately, because it depends on how you look at and how you want to have the conversation as you're the council of the day, you can't. It's hard to make something like a committee permanent, right? You essentially can't, because that's a fortunate thing, because we as council may have a committee that we. However, what I would say on one like this is, to a future council, should they want to get rid of this committee, good luck dealing with Jen, right? So what I would say is that we have a lot of passionate people in our community about this. Not just Jen, right? We have a lot of passionate people in this community about this, and I think that should a future council wish to make a decision that would then undermine and or undo this, I am willing to venture that there would be a strong outcry from the community. I think this is something our community wants. I think this is something, but unfortunately, you can't really make it permanent, unfortunately.
Yeah, all I'm suggesting is, instead of having a councillor or the mayor as the chair of this committee, to make that a public chair position.
Sure.
That way, it's less immune to being dissolved by the council of the day. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, so
as
we
part
could,
of the TORs, and I'd like to hear through the chair, you, Mr. Etney, and maybe Jen, what your thoughts are on that to make sure that if we set this up, that you came to us today and told us how the council of the day really didn't give us any support, and you've been here a long time, so we trust all the work that you've done. So what do you think?
Unfortunately, that might be debate inside of a motion. So what I would say to Councillor Worzynowski is, what we're doing is we're making suggestions for them to bring back to the TOR, so then we can debate it when it comes back. I just want to make sure that we're staying on side with that.
Fair enough.
Because then it becomes debate. What I would say is, it's a great suggestion.
Okay.
we just gotta be careful. Yeah. That's all. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. With that, Councillor Sambo.
Thank you, Your Worship. Are we still making suggestions
Yes.
for the TOR?
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few. First of all, this year, I believe it was the Alberta Heritage Days. What was this called? There was an event that we had. Alberta Days. It was an Alberta Days. I think that this authority could have a part to play in that. That could be really interesting. We talked a little bit about historic site protection. I think that that's a really interesting and important one. Also, I think that the authority could participate in consideration for naming of infrastructure and landmarks. Actually, the Famous Five Foundation has an initiative where they ask municipalities to consider how to name things after women, just because most things are named after men. And just in general, I'm sure we can name things after Chestermereans. I think that would be really interesting. Very briefly wanted to comment. I understand things will come back potentially with a budget. But in the interest of getting movement on some things, I do hope that this committee, authority, whatever, focuses on things that can be implemented at low or no cost, because those will be easy sells. Anything that comes back with a budget will be delayed. Likely there will be conversations, right? So those are my comments.
Can I make a comment about money?
Yep.
Because
Sorry.
we're
Sorry. Your mic was off. Now it's on. You're good now.
Am I good? Okay. So I think in terms of money, we do a casino every 4 years, and we got $70,000. So we did very well with spending our last $45,000, and we've got plans for this. So sometimes we, as the Historical Foundation, could be a funding source. That's one thing. And the other thing is that when you were talking about grants, when we worked with Miranda to set up Najibi's job, our initial work with Miranda, who's been so supportive, was to apply for a grant through Heritage Canada to have a student come. So I just wanted to make you aware that she's a wealth of knowledge about that as well, to have an employee come and do a heritage project. So that's a federal thing, but that money is also available. So two options for not to worry about the money too much.
This is why I think it's really important that as we move forward on something like this, that this committee, or whatever this ends up being as we develop this, is not intended to replace the Historical Foundation. And part of the reason I say that is because of funding. Right? It is true that a municipality has access to funding that a not-for-profit does not have access to. It is equally true the other way, right? For example, we cannot access casino funding, right? So it is equally true. And so this is why, with the creation of things like that and some other things that would not be a part of this motion, so I won't talk about those things. This is why when you have those two and they can work alongside of each other, can be very valuable because it gives you different access to different funding. Also, as a piece of this, on the naming side of things, this could also then be a part of the policy that is currently being developed for a new naming policy within City of Chestermere. Councillor Schindler.
So another suggestion for the TOR is to, as we're looking at history, we should also look at what we're doing today and ensuring that this committee can come up with a method in which we can properly archive today's history, our photos and our events in such a way that it is easily accessed. And I believe we're doing something like that with our exercise on bringing the stuff in the basement into archives, but we should probably looking at how we label things, how we log that data going forward as well. I have an argument in favor of this, or should we just move on to voting? Otherwise,
I think we've made suggestions. I think we're good to move to the vote. So, Councillor Schindler, can you restate the motion, please?
Yes. Did you have a question? Sorry. Okay. The Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to draft, in cooperation with the Chestermere Historical Foundation, a terms of reference for a Chestermere Municipal Historical Advisory Committee and bring back to a council meeting for approval.
Final thoughts, questions? Councillor Warzanowski?
Thank you, Mayor Dean. The only comment, and you should have predicted it from me, is just should we time base this sometime in the future as opposed to leaving it open-ended, maybe within the next quarter or within the next 3 months, and maybe just add a little bit more clarity? Or is it implied that you want to bring this back to council sometime in the near future? That's the only comment I have.
I don't need to. Mr. Edney?
Yeah, through the chair, that's always up to you. I would ask, just with everything going on right now and this being a new initiative, your suggestion of maybe end of March or something like that, or as a deadline would be great. We can work, obviously, to try and do it sooner, but don't make the deadline too short, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Sure.
Better choice of words, because it's a broader in terms of a richer word when it comes to what you're talking about.
Where was your suggestion for that?
Call it Municipal
one-
Heritage
okay, well, so sorry.
Advisory Committee.
One person, please. Sorry.
A Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee.
Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee.
Yes,
There?
I think that is more in keeping with what other municipalities are calling it.
Okay.
And I think Calgary Heritage Authority, it fits with into that versus just the word historical.
So, council, are we okay with that? Okay, Mr. Edney?
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I should
Thank you,
have thought
Mr.
of it sooner, but-
Mayor. Just from a process perspective, can some councillor make that friendly amendment?
Yeah, I was about to, I'm going to get him to restate it. Oh, I see
It
what you're
should be
saying.
a friendly
Can
amendment
I have
versus a
somebody make
restate
the friendly amendment of what,
change that?
Councillor Grant?
Do you want me to accept the friendly from?
No,
Mrs.
you're
Peddlesden?
making the
Oh,
friendly.
I'm making the friendly to change it to the
She
Heritage
can't do
Advisory.
that.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good, very good. Can I make the suggestion that we change this to the Heritage Advisory Committee?
Chestermere Municipal
The
Heritage.
Chestermere Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's acceptable. I
perfect.
will accept that friendly amendment.
Good.
I will restate the motion.
Good.
Are we ready to restate the motion? Any other friendly amendments? No?
I think we're good.
I move that the Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to draft, in cooperation with the Chestermere Historical Foundation, a terms of reference for a Chestermere Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee and bring back to a council meeting by the end of March 2025 for approval.
Final comments, questions? Call for the vote. Great, thank you, and that's passed. And I have one more question to administration. This has been kicked around within this. I'm wondering if a motion is needed along the lines of lead services. Feel free not to write this down quite yet, unless there's a feeling that we need it. So the idea that was kicked around, so the motion being that council direct administration to work with the historical foundation on the continual digitization of historical artifacts for the city of Chestermere. Do we need a motion? All I'm thinking is the number of items that were mentioned already, the work that's already being done, the fact that some of that's already happening. Should we formalize that within a motion, or is administration, does administration need that motion?
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair, I think that's a good motion. We're sort of doing it inherently, but it was not part of the scope in the budget for what we've been doing. So if there were any additional cost implications, it would be good to have a council motion
Okay.
asking that staff took on those tasks, just from a process perspective.
Okay, so do I have a counselor that would be comfortable with the making of said motion? Councillor Warzanowski? Are you saying you're comfortable making that motion? I got you. Okay, so we just get the wording first.
Mayor Dean, if I can help with the motion.
Yes, please.
I'll be prepared to state the motion. The Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to work with the Historical Foundation to share digitization of historical assets.
To share and digitize?
Share and digitize.
Because some of it's not going to be digital yet, right? To share and digitize?
Let's before we restate the motion, let's just flush this out. Because administration will be, they're part of the digitization is within the next year. So during that process, we want them to share any of the historical digitization with the Historical Foundation.
Should be to share historical information as it is digitized.
To share archive information?
Sir, let's slow down. I see what, you're right, Councillor Warzanowski, I jumped the gun. The Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to work with the Historical Foundation to share and digitize, take out the word digitization.
No, instead of work with, just the Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to share historical digitized information with the Historical Foundation.
But we don't want just digitized, because there's also stuff that's not digitized. That's my point.
Yes, but I want to state this motion specifically because we already have somewhat funding for the digitization. We can state another motion to share non-digitized information.
sorry. We want them to share non-digitized so they can digitize it. That's my point. So the Governance Priorities Committee direct administration to share all digitized historical. No, we were better the first time before we put the all digitized.
To share digitized historical information with the Historical Foundation.
Yeah, I guess the only friendly I would add to that, to share digitized and non-digitized.
Okay.
Because that way they can share, it's not limiting. And then I don't think it's outside the scope of the budget.
Why need both? Why don't just say shared historical information?
Archived?
Yeah.
Okay. To share archived historical information?
Yeah.
That better?
I don't want to lose sight of the digitization because we have money assigned to digitize this, and if we state the motion to,
I think you would rather have hard copy, like, and.
Actually, we have been getting that information quite easily through records management, both digitized and not digitized. So I know
let's state
Najibi
that.
has binders of minutes that she goes through and then sometimes uses a digital.
I'm with Councillor Wozinowski on this one. Can we, I hope you copy
So this is
and
correct.
delete it. Can we go back to the
Formalizes
previous?
it, so that's good.
And, yeah.
and just add as applicable because we don't want to send them everything. Digitize as applicable with the historical, as applicable historical information with the Chester. Okay, I'll restate the motion.
Can I, before you do that, I'm wondering, can we change the word with to between, meaning that opening up so that the information goes both ways?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Council, are we okay with the wording of this motion before Councillor Wozinowski makes a motion? No, between the, oh yeah, good, okay, yeah. Councillor Wozinowski?
Anyone else? All right, here we go. Motion, the Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to share digitized and non-digitized information as applicable. Oh, no.
Yeah.
As applicable historical.
You read it properly.
Yeah, I did. Let me, we have to rewrite this again.
Yeah, we're doing it right, yeah.
There we go. Not exactly. After non-digitized, put the word historical. And then delete historical information. There we go. Perfect.
There we go.
I'll restate the motion.
Yeah.
Motion, the Governance and Priorities Committee direct administration to share digitized and non-digitized historical information as applicable between
The city and,
the city and the Chestermere Historical Foundation.
good. Everybody good? Comments, questions? Call for the vote. Great, and that's carried. Thank you. Any other ideas, motions, thoughts? Great. Thank you, Jen. That was great. We've got two great steps forward on this project. So, thank you so much.
Books make great presents.
Where can we get Jen's mic back on? Can you so with that, can you just let people know where they can purchase these books and that sort of thing?
Yes. So we have them in a storage place, but we have some of them taken out, and I have access to those. So if you go on to the Chestermere Historical Foundation webpage, there's a way to order them. You can pay with e-transfer, pay with check, old way, and also by PayPal. They're $20, no GST, and within the city of Chestermere, we will deliver.
Awesome.
I can't say we'll mail them out because I don't know what that looks like these days.
That's fair. Awesome.
So, anyway, so thank you very much, and thank you all for. And I know Ritesh, you weren't able, Councillor, to come, but thank you so much for coming out to the unveiling of our historic signs. And there will be an article in the January edition of the Chestermere Wave about that. So, thank you to the people from the information
And
department.
Jen, I have a question.
Yes.
If somebody
Councillor
wants to
Deputy Mayor
pay,
Randhawa?
Yes.
if somebody wants to pay the book for $20, like as cash.
Oh, yes, I forgot cash, of course. Cash, check, e-transfer, and PayPal. 4 ways. Pardon me. Thank you, Kiran. Yes. So my phone number's on the poster, which is just outside there. The address of the website is there. People can phone me and arrange it over the phone. We'll take any way. And I'm not going away over Christmas, so lots of chance to get in touch with me. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. With that, thank you again for the presentation. With that, I'm going to ask that we take a recess and come back at 10:10 for our second presentation, which is going to be coming from Alberta Council. Thank you much. We'll see you in 10 Good morning, everyone. Just coming back from our recess and coming to our second presentation here today. This presentation is coming from Alberta Council on an engagement proposal and is being presented by Mr. Zack Ziolkowski. Did I? Or are you just being nice?
Nailed it.
All right, good, good.
Practice, as you can see. Our fellow councillors.
I don't believe your mic's on. There we go.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for having me. My name is Zack Ziolkowski. I'm with Alberta Council. So we're a legal and lobby firm based out of Edmonton. Did you want to go into camera for this discussion? So typically when I present to municipalities, part of the conversation is talking about priorities and policies, specifically intergovernmental relations stuff. So it's up to you if you want to or not. The discussion, you could also just like go through the presentation, and then if we do decide to talk about some of your priorities that you have, we can go to the camera at that point. Basically, whatever you want to do.
So I'm wondering if, in the interest of time, knowing that we have a long day ahead of us with budget meetings coming up, and we still have a few items left on our agenda, Council has had the chance to review the presentation that's been provided for us. The public would have the chance to review the presentation that's been provided for us, and so with that, all of that information is public, and it sounds like the rest of the conversation as to helping council make a decision on a move forward would generally be covered under in camera, and I believe under intergovernmental. So with council's indulgence, my suggestion would be, given the things that I have stated, with the presentation already being public, having our chance to review, and in the interest of everything else we have to accomplish today, that we move to in camera. And then if there's any public questions that we have with regards to this presentation, we could also bring those out after the in camera session. How does council feel about this? Good? Good? Okay, so can I have a councillor make the following motion, please? Deputy Mayor Randhawa.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that the Governments and Priority Committee move into closed session to discussion the following: AB Council FOIP Section 24, advice from officials.
Call for the vote. Great, thank you. And we are in camera. We just need to close the door.